just to rewind to day zero, how did you get into this?
The core idea of Propacity and where the word comes from is price and velocity. If you see, in a nutshell, what we tend to do is that create a similar level of sophistication for a tier 2 developer that a tier 1 developer in a tier 1 city has already.
How did you get started? What was the first step?
The first thought was to basically solve for information and create a marketplace. Like the core thought was कि जो 99 acres magic bricks tier 1 city के अंदर करते हैं वो अगर हमने tier 2 city के अंदर कर दिया तो हम जीत गए.
Then what happened next?
One of the largest breakthrough that happened was when we started working with this small developer in Haridwar called ETH. When we were helping this developer in order to position the entire product and market it, we also realized that this developer is just able to bring people on one platform, but then not able to understand how to create a process to sell it.
What's the next step from here?
So we want to go IP.
Hi guys, thanks for joining Zero to Momentum again. Today I'm here with Rahul Bansal, the founder of Propacity. Rahul, thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure, Raj. Looking forward to this.
So I want to start with, what does Propacity do?
Okay. So real estate, primarily, we have seen this as a market where developers create projects which are worth crores, and they find it extremely difficult to find their markets, understand what is the TG that they are targeting to, and then it becomes a market that is extremely illiquid. So think of Propacity as a revenue infrastructure for real estate developers in tier 2, tier 3 cities, where the core idea is that their core job becomes constructing a beautiful real estate project, while everything that is non-core to them, right from positioning the product, finding their ICP, running the entire cash flow infrastructure, figuring out how do they manage their collections and move on to the next project, is entirely handled by a single platform. So it becomes a single point of contact for them in order to position the product, create newer amenities and figure out what are the nuances they can add to it, build a national distribution.
So wait, sorry, I'm just going to cut you right there. So tier 2, tier 3 real estate developers, you're saying they have a hard time probably selling their apartments and flats, and that's why it's illiquid?
Absolutely.
And don't brokers usually help them sell flats?
So brokers in Indian real estate, in a formalized manner, has largely been a tier 1 market phenomena.
Okay.
And especially even in the tier 1 market phenomena, the top 1% are the ones who enjoy 80% of the overall real estate distribution of that market.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Now what happens is that the entire customer experience when it comes to real estate in the most beautiful manner is only designed for the top 2-3% Indian real estate buyers.
Okay.
Right? Now there are two things. Now, when these top 2% real estate buyers want to venture out into newer markets, they have a bad experience.
And can we define what that bad experience is? Like I'll go to buy something in a smaller city and I got cheated or didn't actually ended up buying what I was expecting, or what exactly happens?
Right. So at core, what happens is that these developers operate in crazy amount of chaos, right? Okay. Now, when it comes to creating real estate and when it comes to positioning real estate and selling real estate, all these aspects are extremely different from each other. Okay. Now, these developers who primarily come from different skills backgrounds, like a developer in its X role would either be a contractor or would be an ex-employee of a real estate company, right? Or would be a landowner, doesn't know how to create a real estate experience. Okay. So the general perception is कि यार मुझे घर नहीं मिलेगा, but that is mostly not true. Sure. The point is that the developer has the intent to create the project and they do care about their reputation, even if they are into tier 2, tier 3 cities. But the problem is they do not have the know-how to create the experience that a DLF does in Gurgaon.
So can we define what you exactly mean by experience? What's the experience? Okay. Now, I came to buy a house. What does the developer not know, and what is the experience?
Okay. So we will go deep into the entire value chain of a real estate project and a sales cycle, okay, in order to understand the experience. So for the investor or for the customer, the real estate experience primarily looks like आज मैं घर देखने जा रहा हूँ. I go to 5 different properties and I find a home and I finalize upon something. Right? This is the customer experience for a end user or an investor. Now think of it from a developer's perspective, right? First, when they are figuring out what to create upon a land, right? So first they have to understand what are the areas in which they should be buying their land.
Okay. And is that something you guys help
So
with?
we help the developers understand all the external factors in terms of the data that is present, and that data is a play that happens into the Propacity platform where the external data of that market meets the internal data,
Okay.
and we use intelligence in order to create different insights for the developer.
Okay.
What is the configuration that they should be launching at? What is the broker type that they should be interacting with?
Wow,
And most of these developers are particularly dependent upon the hyperlocal demand. So we help them understand that, hey, whether you are catering to the hyperlocal demand, there is this non-hyperlocal other cities which would also be an investor into that particular market. So why aren't you creating some amenities or some product changes that can also lure a newer investor that can also possibly give you a higher price?
Okay.
Right?
Now I think now I understand.
And then this what Propacity ends up doing is that we end up improving the quality of the supply. We fundamentally believe that India, and when we talk about India, there are multiple Indias that live in India today. There is a India that we are sitting in, which is a $10,000-15,000 per capita. Then there is a $2,000 per capita which is buying their first home. This $10,000-15,000 per capita is now wanting to buy an LE Saab or a farmhouse or a spiritual property or something like that. They all intersect differently. So basically helping the developer understand what they are creating and how they can amalgamate different audiences into it, number one. Second, then help them define a narrative that are you selling home, which is brick and mortar, or are you selling a story that can inspire the people who live in it?
So you're helping them market it basically.
We help them build that entire narrative first, and then we help them market.
Okay.
And then
so sorry, I'm just going to cut in there. So brokers obviously are transactional. Whatever the builder builds, they'll sell.
Yeah.
You obviously come in way before. You are providing the intelligence. So you're sort of the true partner.
Yes.
And then you partner with these developers end to end. How did you, just to rewind to day zero, how did you get into this? Like, did you have real estate experience, or how did you come about to choose this angle of helping real estate developers?
Okay. So 3 of us, Uday, me and Imran.
Your founders, co-founders?
My co-founders.
Okay.
Come from families which have been into business over the last 30-40 years.
Sure.
Right? And real estate was at one asset class that we have seen our family transacting, in which we have seen them making money in real estate, losing money in real estate. But we fell in love in this industry because we realized that they are able to get information that most people can't, right? And they are able to access it because there is some broker who is constantly feeding them that you should take a call on this and you should take a call on this. And these are largely markets that nobody knows. Or these are largely markets that majority people don't know about. So that is something that got us most excited inherently, that why is this information asymmetry exist to a level that only a few people are able to access it, right? So that was the kida that I particularly wanted to solve.
Sure.
And we went on our own paths. So all 3 of us come from consulting backgrounds. Then we had very short stint, like 3, 4, 5 months working in Deloitte, BCG. And then 3 of us met at this beautiful, fastest growing edtech company today, Leverage EDU. And we were the first few people to join Leverage. And I was taking care of business partnerships. So they was handling technology. Imran was taking care of the entire content growth engine. And then we started interacting. We built that team up for about 3.5 years. And we realized that, hey, even here, we are a bunch of people who do not come from the edtech industry, but we realize that this is extremely fragmented and we are able to solve for something which is hope. Why can't we do the same in real estate? Like, if we are able to bridge information asymmetry here and people are able to take a call with their careers, why can't we enable people tap into these newer markets and solve for this information asymmetry? And that was a core idea.
How did you get started? What was the first step?
Right. So because we were consumers ourselves, the first thought was to basically solve for information and create a marketplace.
Okay.
Like the core thought was कि जो 99 acres मैजिक ब्रिक्स टीयर 1 सिटी के अंदर करते हैं, वो अगर हमने टीयर 2 सिटी के अंदर कर दिया तो हम जीत गए. Right? So that is how the entire journey started. Like, hey, we know how listings work. We understand that. We know how business works. And now we will go deep into creating so many listings in all the other cities. Like, think about the next 100 smart cities minus the 10 tier 1 cities. Now in the next 90 cities, if we are just able to create listing, problem solved.
Sure.
Right? We did that. It terribly failed.
Okay.
Right? Because we realized that people are not searching about those cities because that is not something that they immediately want to solve.
Correct.
It is something that lies in them deep down, but that is not something. I am not searching plots in Haridwar, or I don't even know whether I want something in Haridwar, whether it is the right market for me to work for. Then we realized that possibly the way to go is that how that Gupta ji used to call my dad and say that, hey, you should do this. Let's create a platform that can enable brokers.
Okay.
So we created this platform called Plus. And one of the core insights that really worked for us is that this is a kind of an industry which has no entry-exit barrier. Anybody can become a broker in India. There is no real estate examination that happens like in international markets. Now Maharashtra has started something.
Yeah,
Right? And I love Maharera.
You need to
You
go
now
through
need it.
RERA
It is
courses
just
and all.
it has just happened. Very positive move over the last couple of years. It has happened, and I think all the other RERA bodies should implement it as well. But
Yeah.
we started in
Just
2021.
for our audience, RERA is new regulation in real estate that came in now, kicked in now, what, 5 or 10 years ago?
It's been about 10 years.
It's been about
going
10
to be
years,
about 10
but
years.
it's like what, not
So-
to overstate it, but what
Yeah.
SEBI is to the stock market. Finally, we have a regulatory body, so people
Yeah.
are not making
Which
random
basically
mistakes.
creates the guardrails for the developers, or they have to basically define in what time they would be able to deliver the project, and they are liable for it. It is a forum for the customers to also
Okay.
go and interact that, oh, these are the issues.
Okay.
While I still think that RERA has a long way to go with respect to SEBI.
Sure.
SEBI is a far stronger regulator, and
Of
there is a
course.
lot of
But
improvements
that's
that are happening.
also over 30, 40 years.
That has also been 30,
RERA
40
is young.
years. And the good part is that there is a lot of authority that has been given to RERA, because RERA still is a state subject. Like
Yeah.
SEBI is a centralized body.
Sure.
You have multiple state RERAs,
Yeah.
but it is now formalizing into
Yeah.
better and better every day.
So you build that platform for
We built that
brokers,
platform.
plus-
We realized that it is very easy to become a broker, but it is very hard to become a good broker because there is no benchmark, right? And also, if there are 4 brokers sitting in a room, they will never share insights with each other because they're operating upon the same demand and supply. So we should enter the market with the very noble thought that let's educate them.
Okay.
Let's tell them that while the industry is changing, how you can become a realtor, how you can become a consultant, how you can become that source of knowledge, source of information. And these people already have trust of people living in certain micro markets. So if we could help them understand alternate markets, right? So that could be an easier way to tap into the network, right? So that was a core idea. Can we basically enable these brokers, increase their earnings?
So what happened there?
So that was pretty successful. We were able to garner about 3,000 brokers across a span of pan-India. Propacity now has more than 10,000 plus brokers across 300 plus cities of India. But the core idea was that if we could bring developers on the platform, and if we could bring brokers on the platform, and if we could bring brokers first, the transactions will automatically start happening, that which basically naturally happens in a marketplace, right? So the core idea is that, hey, let's do Zoom calls. In the first Zoom call, one of the broker came, 2 or 3 brokers came into that Zoom call, and it was a 2-hour workshop. Brokers exited after 30 minutes.
Okay.
And we were like, what is happening? Whether we are doing this right or not, or whether we possibly because we don't come from the industry. But we had something that, yes, because we don't come from the industry and we do not have this benchmark that this industry operates in a certain way, we might hit off, right? And eventually on that third workshop, 200 brokers, 300 brokers, 400 brokers. At peak, when Propacity takes a broker workshop today, more than 500 brokers.
And they
join
stayed
it.
the whole time.
They stay the whole time.
Okay.
Like by the end of the workshop, you would see at least 460, 470 brokers staying in the workshop and enjoying it.
Got
And that is where we ended up building very, very deep relationships.
Okay.
But that again failed.
That again failed.
That
so,
again
so,
failed.
So quickly to recap, you started with a housing.com's sort of a
For tier two,
listing place for tier 2. That didn't work. Then you did the broker platform. Some lessons, some network was built, but that essentially was not the way forward. Then what happened next?
So we said that now when we have realized that brokers are not working, and these brokers are also, while they are seeking information from us, there is no transacting relationship that is happening. We realized that, hey, why not understand the developer ecosystem now? Okay. So we started working as a platform that started reaching out to developers and said that, hey, whatever you want us to solve, we'll solve it. These are the few things that we know. We can help you position your product. We have this broker network that can help you sell your product. And one of the first developers that we started working with was Omax. Okay. And when we started working with Omax, we realized
Omax here in Delhi?
Omax here in Delhi. Omax is one of the largest developers in the country. So we were helping Omax position two of their iconic commercial projects, Wall Street and Omax Chandni Chowk. And while we were helping them, we realized that there is a lot of customization that we are enabling for the developer to position them, but there is nothing real that we are adding to their lives, right? Because they are so big that there is most of the things that they have already solved it, right? Because there is so much depth and learning that they have evolved over decades, and there is not much value that we are adding to it. One of the largest breakthrough that happened was when we started working with this small developer in Haridwar called ETH. Right? And that is where the magic started to happen. Okay? Because this developer, which was sitting in ETH, sitting in Haridwar, was selling a 3 BHK for about 6,000 rupees per square feet, which was still high with respect to that market in 2023. But this developer had the vision of selling it at 20,000.
20,000 rupees a square feet?
20,000 rupees a square feet.
Okay.
And we were like that he has gone mad. This is Gurgaon level pricing. Haridwar के अंदर 20,000 square feet का product कौन खरीद रहा है? Right? Correct. And this developer said that, hey, can you help me position the product? You can help me improve this product as well. And the only thing that I would tell you is that don't run the campaign in Haridwar.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
And we were like, you don't run the campaign in Haridwar. Is that now how real estate works? Like you build the property and you sell it in the 10 kilometer, 20 kilometer radius. Okay, no, don't run the campaign in Haridwar. And this is pre Abhinandan Lodha and all these players, right? Much before that. It's
before Ayodhya and before
Ayodhya and all these players and everything. And then we ran the campaign in Bihar. We ran the campaign in US. We ran the campaign in Singapore, multiple other smaller cities all across the country. And he said that, I don't want 30 leads. I want 300. So increase the budget. Put a lakh a day. We did that. And to our surprise, even till today, the developer generates more than 500 interactions every day. Every day. Okay. Right? And that blew our mind. Sure. And that's when all the ecosystems and all the learnings that we built started to recollect. But what happened is that when we were helping this developer in order to position the entire product and market it, we also realized that this developer is just able to bring people on one platform, but then not able to understand how to create a process to sell it. The core idea of Propacity and where the word comes from is price and velocity. Correct. Right? So price plus velocity means Propacity. The core thought was that, hey, can we make sure that the price and velocity come naturally to a developer without the cost of each other. Like generally what happens and then what majority of the companies do is that they will give you velocity at the cost of price and they will give you price at the cost of velocity. So is there a way? So this entire we built this entire ecosystem. Like for the brokers, we built this beautiful platform called Propacity Plus. We said that, hey, they do not want to use a CRM, which is also something that we built, right? Because they have such a small lead flow that there is no efficiency that you are adding to their lives. Like you cannot empower an agent because they are only catering to 1 or 2 clients a month, right? They want knowledge, right? There is nothing that you're creating for the customer because you cannot take guarantee for the supply that you are selling because you're not participating in the creation of it, right? So we went back, and then everything that we did over the last 2.5 years started making sense.
So, a couple seconds ago, you said one point which I think is a huge insight for me is you're right, price plus velocity is what you're trying to create, because usually in real estate, when people are trying to go too fast, there's the whole notion of let's sell it for cheaper because we want the inventory to move fast. Or you have price, which is let's be very patient and hold on to a price, and only when we get a price. You are saying that you are putting price and velocity together to help the developer sell at, in fact, increasing prices and an increasing rate. How exactly are you pulling that off?
Yeah. So if you see, in a nutshell, what we tend to do is that create a similar level of sophistication for a tier 2 developer that a tier 1 developer in a tier 1 city has already.
Okay.
Right?
In terms of their
And
processes.
in terms of three things. One is positioning, second is distribution, and third is technology.
Okay.
Right? So we see that when you go to a DLF or when you go to a Godrej, they are not entirely dependent upon their hyperlocal demand. And that is their biggest advantage in terms of price and distribution. Like 70% of their total inventory will be sold hyperlocally, but 30% of that inventory will be bought by people from other markets.
But that's because they have a brand,
They
a
have a
national
brand, they
which
have a
is-
national distribution,
which
and
is trust.
Yeah.
So how do you bring that to the smaller
Yes.
guy?
So we realized that there is a lot of demand, and people in tier 1 cities really have that tendency to invest into tier 2 markets, but they don't know how to, where to, and with whom to.
Correct.
Okay. So we realized that the with whom to part is the easiest to solve. So all these broker ecosystem that we built, so we created a platform called Plus, and then an educating platform in that product called Bhai.
Correct.
So Bhai is called Broker Helper AI. So what Bhai does is that what an actual Bhai would do for you. Bhai आपके सारे छोटे काम कर देगा. आपको छोटे बड़े जितने भी आपके काम है, आपको सुबह अपना रेंट एग्रीमेंट बनवाना है, आपको किसी मार्केट के बारे में जानना है, आपको बिल्डर के क्रिएटिव पर अपना नाम लिखवाना है. So we realize that if we can't build the trust for the developer, but we have a lot of trust in the developer and we have done our due diligence and there is a market that is booming, is there a way through which we can marry that macro market pull with this developer's construction possession capability and the trust that this broker has into one and empower the buyer? So that was the simple idea, right? Like, we know that this developer has created a great product. He doesn't have the product positioning capability or the product edition capability. Like, we enabled this developer to launch Haridwar's first pickleball court, right? We enabled a developer think about launching a Waldorf school in a small area in Pimpri Chinchwad called Dehu. And there are n number of examples like that. We enabled a developer sitting out of Noida get into Dholera, which is becoming the largest manufacturing hub of this country, right? So what we end up doing is that improve the quality of the supply and then communicate that improvement to the buyers via brokers.
Let's talk about how you got some of these developers on board. You talked about Omax and you talked about Haridwar one. That was your older avatar. Means you were just giving your services to help them position, price. And by the way, can you touch on the technology part a little bit? Like, how are you engaging with them on the technology piece? I'll actually let you cover that first. But then I want to go to how did you start getting these developers on board?
Okay. So the interesting part about Propacity is that network effects kick in at all levels. Okay. So there is no business development team that knocks upon the developer doors every day that, hey, give us a mandate, give us a mandate, give us a mandate, give us a mandate. It is entirely network effects driven. So we talk about the success story that we create in one market and then we go deeper into the other. Okay. We divide our supply into 4 parts. We tend to focus upon spiritual markets, which is Haridwar, Vrindavan, Khatu Sham and markets like these, and they all operate in a similar fashion. We go deeper into holiday homes. which is your Konkan belt around the beaches, and the Himalayas, which control more than about 50% of the overall holiday home demand of the country. Third, what we call as industrial cities, basically cities which are booming because of manufacturing, because Dholera, Sonipat, and many cities like that. And these are the three kind of supply in which a lot of non-hyper local distribution exist, right? Because people from tier 1 cities and international markets want to invest into these kind of markets and want to enjoy either the macro market growth or want to live in peace, right? The fourth supply is what we call as tier 1.5, which is basically the periphery of tier 1 cities or newer urban centers where people are wanting to invest into commercial properties or they want to buy their first home.
So this would be Pune.
Yeah, this would be Pune, the Gachibowli high-tech area of Hyderabad, New Gurgaon, Greater Noida, areas like that, Sonipat, areas like that.
So you focus on all these four?
Focus on all these four. So first we bucketed down the set of micro markets that we want to be present in. And like our other counterparts, we didn't want to be super hyper local in one particular micro market.
Okay, so you seem to be getting non-local demand max.
Non-local demand max. We were not like that, hey, we will only be a platform that is helping developers in Bombay, or we would only be a platform that is helping developers in Gurgaon. Rather, we eliminated all the top.
And you use the word mandate, which in layman's terms, that is the developer lets you sell the whole inventory.
Yeah.
You become the master broker.
We become the master broker.
And that's the true business model.
That is the true business model.
Okay. So what was your first mandate? So you explained these four buckets. How did you get your first developer and where was that?
Okay. So Raj, you asked me a question that how did you reach out to so many developers? So the core idea was that we didn't reach out to them first for giving us the distribution. We said that these developers have a lot to solve and they are great at one or two things. So we said that everything else that you're not good at, give us pieces of it. Sure. So somebody told us that, hey, can you help us do our broker interaction in a better way? Can you help us position in a better? And we did not say no. And that is a learning that I would want to give to anybody who's starting up, that just do it. Right? Understood. Don't think a lot about...
wasn't your core business, core focus. That wasn't the destination.
Yeah.
But to learn.
But to understand what the market... Like, it's like, I remember when we started, there were so many PropTech companies that started with us, right? 90% of them don't exist today. Right? So the core idea was that continue to move. Do not create very strong opinions upon certain thesis. Sure. The markets continue to change and real estate timing ka nahi, time ka game hai. So take your time, and once you are able to understand the market and the areas in which you want to go deep into, then go deep. So the core idea of building Propacity was that we want to build a tech-led distribution platform, but we did not held strongly to it कि अगर एक डेवलपर मुझे सेल्स नहीं देगा तो मैं उसके साथ काम ही नहीं करूंगा. So it took us good 2.5 years for us to first understand the customer platform, then the broker platform, then become something for the developer. And then in July 24, one of the developers that we were working with, Rama, which is one of the largest developers in a small micro market called Moshi in Pune, we reached out to him and said that, hey, I think we have understood the game well. And we have this broker network. We have built this entire ecosystem where all the pieces come together with the strong distribution as well as technology working in tandem with each other. And I think what you are able to do today, we would be able to do 2x of that. Right. Okay. So this developer was essentially selling about 8 to 10 units a month in a good month and about 5 to 6 units a month in a bad month. At supposedly a price of, say, 45 lakh rupees a flat, a 2 BHK flat. So Mr. Raju Punjabi, who is the promoter of was kind enough and he said that, hey, I know you. And there is a lot of fire that I see in this team. And I have seen you guys grow over the last 2.5 years in front of me. And I want to take a bet. And he gave us 300 apartments.
To sell.
300 apartments, gave us the entire project to sell. Okay. And that's where magic happens. Like this team of, but then about...
So price plus velocity, what happened there? He was doing 8 to 10 in a good month.
Yeah.
Less 45 lakh price.
Yeah.
What did you guys
clock? So the entire project was 700 units. They sold 400 units over a span of 2.5 years. Um, we took the project when it had 300 units left, uh, and the price was 45 lakh rupees a flat. And this is an extremely price sensitive market. We are not talking about something like Gurgaon, which is a flat which is 2 crores today, and then it goes to 3 crores in after the launch.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of a market in which your sales velocity will take a toll if you move from 45 to 46. We took that price to 60 lakh rupees a flat, and we have sold the entire inventory
And how did
in
you take
12
it to
months.
60?
So that's a very interesting case study. We one stopped only catering to the brokers which existed in that hyperlocal market. Okay, so there were a lot of inhibitions for the brokers to work with the developer, primarily with respect to that these brokers were particularly accustomed to working with larger sized developers and their way of operating. Right, like, go to the site, have that beautiful tab. There is a certain kind of customer experience that you get as soon as you enter into a Godrej office, right? You are treated in a certain way as a channel partner. You're not seen as a broker, right? Now, all of this, while the developer has to do it because they have to sell, you cannot particularly expect from the developer that they would be able to do it at the same benchmark. But that's not their core responsibility, right? So what Propacity did, simply utilized our entire technology stack to one, create a similar customer experience. Everything is automated now. Like, the brokers are able to understand what is happening to their lead, how many cancellations have happened, what happened to their token, what happened to booking from the Plus platform. They're able to get education about the market from Bhai. They're able to learn whatever they want to understand about running campaigns from the Plus platform. For the customer, we created a bot that is with them 24/7 with all the customer conversations that we have to do. For the developer, there is this entire Salesforce for real estate, and I can
So
tell
an
you,
ERP end to end.
entire ERP,
Is that
right
now
from
their single source of truth? They
their
have their
single
sales
source of truth.
contracts,
And
their-
now we are building an entire AI back office platform for the developer called Cockpit, right? Which is going to be like giving a 10,000 view to the developer about everything that's happening, and where all the data from their internal systems and everything that's happening externally gives them a lot of insights in terms of improving their internal systems and also figuring out what is the new land parcel that they should be looking at.
Yeah.
What happened is, because
awesome.
of all of this, so one, we improved the positioning of the product because we started communicating a lot of things that the developer wasn't communicating earlier. Number one. Second, this ease brought 100 newer channel partners on the site.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
So the only 90% of the channel partners that were operating in that market were primarily from Pimpri Chinchwad, Moshi, and around about areas. Right? So Moshi is a small micro market in Pimpri Chinchwad. So it was largely Moshi based developers and developers around and in and around Pimpri Chinchwad. More than 100 developers from West Pune, which is the most organized market of Pune, started participating in Rama. Because
you creating new networks.
We created newer networks, and the outcome of that was that we, on an average, started selling 15 units a month, and the price went up 200 to 300 rupees per square feet every quarter, right? And that is something that we have done not just in Moshi, but we also did in Haridwar, okay, where the price for this apartment did go up from 6,000 rupees per square feet to 20,000 rupees per square feet. For the viewers, I would tell them to check ETH Emerald Riviera. ETH Emerald Riviera.
Emerald Riviera. Okay.
Today, a
Haridwar.
3 BHK low-rise apartment in ETH Emerald Riviera is about 3.5 crores.
Okay.
Right.
And what kind of, just out of curiosity, what kind of people are buying that? You were talking about running ads all over the world. Is it just people buying holiday homes there, vacation homes there in Haridwar? I know it's spiritual tourism, but what kind of people?
Okay. So every product has a different audience. For Haridwar, majority of the people that are buying are generally folks who want to gift something to their parents. So think about NRIs living in the US, Singapore, stronger Indian communities. And Haridwar has a huge religious pull. Okay. And they want to live near Gangaji. and enjoy that entire weather, be around a community of people who are like-minded. So one is the category where they want to give something to their parents.
Yeah.
Second is people who have just retired from a PSU.
Yeah.
They want to buy, and a lot of businessmen are also buying it. What we realize that it will be a second home, but it has become the first home for a lot of investors who invested.
So for a second, I just want to rebuild your whole chronology. You guys started by saying information in real estate, there's a lot of asymmetry, which is true. And ironically, you're also building this in a decade where regulations coming into real estate, RERA. So that's the backdrop. You started by literally helping developers across the country do consulting work for them, because not the smaller developers don't have the infra of a DLF or a LODA, etc. So you started with that. You built your learnings. You also built broker networks. You are now tying this whole thing together on a single platform, which is you have the AI for the brokers, and you have a place which not only educates brokers but gives them new projects to sell.
Yes.
And they're sharing that revenue with you. You're giving the developer an entire ERP and end-to-end stack of running the business. And even the client, the customer, all of us, which used to, at least maybe not today and not in tier 1, but it used to be such a stressful experience to buy a apartment or a flat because you don't know when it's going to be ready, you don't have updates, the total lack of transparency. You're solving that too with the same tech platform. This has now allowed a class of developer to trust you to be the sort of the master seller, master broker, give you the mandate to sell the entire product exclusively, right?
Yeah.
And you're doing this in Pune, in Noida, in Haridwar, in Dhulera, and some of these markets. Phenomenal story, because a lot of people look at real estate a little from the outside, not understanding it, and oversimplistically, and they are just trying to put things into bucket that, oh, this is a brokerage and this is just marketing of the projects. You have taken like a bringing of the intelligence and transparency view to it. So again, you kept getting developers onto your platform. How many developers did you onboard for this exclusive mandate?
Okay. So the insights business, where we have worked with more than 100 developers across 30 plus cities of the country. When it comes to creating this amplification of distribution for developers, we are extremely choosy. Okay. So the intent there is to not work with more and more developers, but to basically work with a few developers and to enable them do more.
Sure.
Right? Because while I say that this is an industry where amplification should happen, the amplification of wrong assets and people who come with this with the ill intent of looking at this industry as a money-making machine should also not happen. Right? So we work only with 9 developers across the country.
Right now. Deliberately.
Yeah. And across these 9 developers, we have about 1,200 crores of real estate inventory that can exclusively be sold by Propacity.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and across these 9 developers, which are spread across 4 cities, we are still going deeper into, we have started going much deeper into Pimpri Chinchwad and parts of Pune, which still contributes to about 65-70% of our total GDV. And the rest 30%, we are extremely selective, because these are the micro markets in which quality supply is harder to find. Right? Okay. Because there is still much less organization.
Sure.
Right? So you basically need to find people who are in it for the long run. So when we were building Propacity, we were very, very, very sure of the fact that we will not take asset risk. Right?
Correct.
Because this is a kind of an industry in which if you're taking asset risk, you have to be super hyper local.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right? There are very few examples, like even DLF, when it comes to expanding into newer markets, have not been super successful in all the markets that they have gone deep into. Right? Correct. So if you're taking asset risk, you have to be super, super hyper local. So that is one benchmark, whether the developer that we are working with is extremely strong with their thesis. Like, hey, I just want to do spiritual. Now, if you just want to do spiritual, all the markets are similar. You can do spiritual. I just want to do holiday homes. Okay, good. Go in these 5-10 markets in which you want. I just want to do Pune. Great. So that is one. Whether we align with the developer or not, whether the developer has the intent to do the same thing over and over and over and over again and not get bored by it. Right?
Yeah.
So that intent of working with a certain set of developers is extreme. So we have an entire thesis of the set of developers that we want to transact with and the set of developers that we don't want to transact with. And then that entire insights layer becomes a way for us to continuously find the developers that
So
have
you
that
keep
set
getting
of
the crop.
Yeah.
So actually, for a second, let's talk about what it takes team-wise to execute such a business. So you guys are 3 founders. Can you quickly tell me who focuses on what?
Yeah. So I focus upon business and partnerships.
Okay.
Right. I take care of basically figuring out what are the new markets that we can go deep into, what is the larger supply strategy that should be there, focus a lot upon building leadership.
Okay.
Imran takes care of the operations, basically making sure that the ship runs and continues.
When you say operations, he works with all the brokers, he works with all the sites?
Yeah. So he's the man behind making sure that all the sites are in order. Okay.
Got it.
So all the people who are in the system and all the vision that has been executed and the plans that needs to be executed are executed well, while taking extreme care of all the stakeholders that we manage. And there are many stakeholders. So you're managing the team that is employed by Propacity on the site, which is also controlling the experience. You're managing the developer, you're managing the
How large is the team? How large is the Propacity team? The total company in-house is how many people?
So we are 103. We are
103. So how many people are on the field?
So 80 are on the field.
80, and when they are on the field, are they brokers themselves?
No. So we have a program called BIR. It's called Broker in Residence. So few of them are BIRs. Like out of these 80, about 30 of them would be BIRs. And the 50 run about 9 sites that we manage, which is not that big. Like we are able to launch a site with just 4-5 people. Largely because we do not need a lot of people on the site because everything is distributed and operated via technology.
So what do they do on the site?
So we have one site head, which basically makes sure that there is no mis-selling that is happening. The site is in order. There is communication between the developer, the brokers, the internal team, us, all of that, and manages the entire experience of the site and makes sure that every component that we have deployed as a part of the process doesn't change. Right? And then we have BIRs. We have 3 or 4 BIRs every side, which basically engages with the brokers. So you cannot do everything on the technology as well. While there is a 24/7 conversation that happens via the platform, you also need a physical human that makes sure that if there is any communication that requires a physical touch, that's there.
And your third co-founder Uday is on technology?
Uday runs tech.
He's on technology. And tell me something. If 103 people now, you have what? How many sites right now? 5, 6, 7?
There are 6 sites which are live. And 3 are going live in the next 60 days.
So 6 to 9. Again, I want to dial back to, let's say, when you had your first site. Let's go beyond the intelligence. How large were you guys then? And I know you've raised funds in the past before, but how many folks did it take to prove out the first site?
So we were just 30 people.
Okay, then. 30. And again, most of this was the field team?
No, we didn't have we built our transactions team along with Rama Crystal One. Right. Understood. So the only person that we wanted to figure out was to have that initial set of P&L leads who can basically own that entire ecosystem. Right. So that's when. So one of the very important aspect of Propacity that I'm extremely proud of is that 3 of us are extremely lucky to build a very strong leadership. Right. So about 60% of the supply that is now sourced by Propacity is not by me.
Amazing.
Right? Majority of the technology infrastructure that is now getting built or what has been built, it is not serviced by Uday. The operations is not, the day-on-day operations is not.
Yeah, that's now, and you guys build these, but when you were doing your first site, it was still 30 people?
It was me, Imran and Uday sitting on the site.
Okay, it was you
Yeah.
guys sitting on the side.
We
Okay.
guys sitting on the side, and that
Is it-
happened for good 45, 60 days.
Yeah.
Because we were like that, hey, we can operate as the site heads rather than bringing somebody just to fill the gap.
Makes
Because this is serious. Because
Is it hard to get paid? Now, basically, the chosen business model is you're selling the flats, the developers, giving you a cut. We can talk about what that is, but new flat commissions are 5, and then you are probably splitting that with the other outside brokers and channel partners. But is it hard to get paid? Notoriously, people from the outside think it's very hard to get paid in this industry, and how you do have 100+% payroll now, but is it hard to get paid, and how did you get over that challenge?
Raj, I think you know our numbers, right? We started transactions about 18 months back, and it took us another 18 months to build the entire infrastructure first. We started transactions in the first 6 months. We did close to about 35 crores of transactions, which was last year, where we only had one side. This year we are moving more than 200 crores of real estate, and we anticipate to do 4 to 5x of this in the coming financial year, and then much more in the time to come. Right? We have raised less than $1 million. Right? It would have been super hard to run the ship if we were not getting paid.
That's awesome.
Right?
So the developers are paying you, and
The developers are paying us because we are creating such huge outcomes for them that they did not imagine, right? So what is happening is that what the developers supply roadmap, which was say 10 years, now gets executed in 7 or 8 years, right? So we are able to solve for the opportunity cost for the developer. We are able to create more money for the brokers. The developer can now just focus upon something that they deeply love rather than focusing upon day-to-day ops. And we are creating an experience for the buyer that they always wanted. Right? Yeah. So all the that is why I said that there is network effects at all levels. Yeah. Developers refer deferrals, brokers bring more brokers, buyers bring more buyers. Obviously that trust gets collected to the broker, everybody is happy. And why we are able to do that? Because we are tapping into markets that nobody saw. Right? While everybody was looking at golf course extension, we said, why can't we look at the micro market that exists 40 kilometers post that?
40 kilometers post that.
40 kilometers post that. Okay. So that was the core idea, and yeah, that's.
So, and now where do you go from here? I know you said 9 developers that will compound. You have mapped out markets, but what's the next step from here?
So we want to go IPO in the next 5 to 6 years. Yeah. That we want to take Propacity public. We want to become the largest platform in terms of moving real estate inventory in the emerging markets of India. This is going to be $1 trillion industry by 2030. We are already looking at your tier 1 cities, which is $10,000 to $15,000 per capita. We are looking at more than 100 plus cities, which is more than $3,000 per capita. And this movement from an average $3,000 per capita to $5,000-6,000 per capita, which is going to happen in the next 5 to 6 years, is going to create insane real estate opportunities in so many newer markets. And we want to become the default platform for all the developers that exist in those markets. Right. So that is a core idea.
Excellent. Awesome. Super insightful. Thanks for chatting with me, Rahul.
I had a great time, Raj. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks. I just wrapped up chatting with Rahul Bansal, founder of Propacity. And while there was a lot to unpack about the world of real estate, 2 specific thoughts, 2 specific insights I'm taking away from this chat. One is people have looked at real estate almost in the same way, like a slow moving asset. But I kind of found 2 refreshing new ways of looking at it, bringing transparency and intelligence to newer real estate developers that has unlocked opportunities for Propacity. There is a new way of selling apartments and flats, a more transparent way of selling apartments and flats. And the second is that a lot of people would always believe that real estate will be sold only hyper locally. But by tapping into this sort of fringe habit almost of people buying real estate in different markets, and how can that be connected through a trusted, transparent network, I think there is something there, and we'll wait and watch how that pans out for Propacity. But two new ways of servicing and looking at real estate is what I found super refreshing. Thanks for watching.